An update on the Shanquella Robinson case. Today's celebrity news starts right now. Welcome back to today's celebrity news. I'm your host, J So Extra. There's a lot to go over, so let's get started. I first want to say that this case involving the death and murder of Shanquella Robinson is multifaceted, and it's actually going to take multiple weeks to get all the information that you guys need. I'm in the middle of doing background checks of all the people involved, and I'm actually waiting for the resort in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico to get back with me. I'm waiting for the local police in Mexico to give me a statement in regards to the investigation and how it is going. It is very difficult to get in contact with them and get a response from them, because this case not only involves the police and the FBI in the United States, but it involves Interpol. Interpol provides investigative support and secure communications between law enforcement authorities and their counterparts in 103 Interpol member countries, as well as administering their access to Interpol databases, resources, and services. So the police department from Cabo and the FBI from the United States are able to communicate to each other through Interpol. The FBI is able to share the background information on the suspects to Mexico, and Mexico is able to share how their investigation is going to the FBI. Today's video is going to be a little different because for the first time, I'm actually going to give you my predictions of how this case is going to pan out, based on my experience with the Tim Norman murder for hire case, and also with my experience of over 3 years interacting with Mexican police and citizens. First off, the main suspect in the case, Daejanae Jackson, who was the woman seen fighting Shanquella in videos while they were in the resort at Cabo San Lucas, was on the run for multiple days. So in the United States, we had the FBI, the local police, bordering state police looking for Daejanae, and you also had the Mexican authorities and their various police departments throughout multiple cities in Mexico also looking for Daejanae. This woman was on the run evading authorities, but to no avail because she was captured. Not only was she captured, but Daejanae was detained in the United States until the authorities could arrange an extradition from the United States to Mexico. Once that extradition took place, she was placed in the custody of the Mexican police and is being held there without bond until her trial begins. Quick overview of the parties involved. So you have the victim, Shanquella Robinson. You have the main suspect, Daejanae Jackson, who was seen, as I mentioned in the video, actually fighting Shanquella. Of all the videos being circulated right now about that time in Cabo, the one that's going around the most is the video of Daejanae fighting Shanquella by herself. But there are multiple reports that there are several videos that involve the other people who attended the trip. And let me give you their names. Also on the trip to Cabo was Winter Donovan. In a second video, she can be seen body slamming Shanquella. Malik Dyer. In the video, you can hear his voice in the background telling Shanquella to fight back, saying at least you can do is hit her back, and Shanquella responding no. Shanquella did not want to fight back Daejanae within that video. Khalil Cook, who was quote unquote Shanquella's best friend. You can see him in the video. He is the gentleman with the beard, but he did not stop the fight from happening, and he did not separate the two women, nor did he get Shanquella out of harm's way. And lastly, Elise Hyatt. Elise reportedly leaked the second video showing that Winter was fighting, but also in this second video, you can see Elise fighting Shanquella as well. So essentially, you had 3 different women fighting Shanquella who herself did not want to fight any of them and refused to fight back when she was urged to do so. But now that Daejanae has been arrested, let's talk about the possibilities for everyone else who was there. Now, there have been conflicting reports from the Mexican authorities, the Mexican Department of Justice, and the hospital staff on what actually transpired that night with Shanquella. There are reports that Shanquella was alive when the ambulance first arrived when they received the call. And then there is another report saying that she was unresponsive at the time the doctor arrived to the scene. Now, of all the years I've been covering cases, whenever you have an American citizen dying on foreign soil under mysterious circumstances, there's usually a full-on investigation that takes place. I would not be surprised if the CIA, FBI, the United Nations all get involved in this crime that took place on foreign soil involving a victim who's a United States citizen. I suspect there will be interviews from all of the people who responded, from the hospital staff, the doctor, the EMTs, any nurses that saw Shanquella when she got to the hospital, the coroner, anyone at the morgue, any police that responded to the calls, and also any department heads that were handling this case, or if this case crossed their desk. Because this case has made not only national news but international news, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard from the president of Mexico when this is all said and done. I think we'll also hear from the higher ups and the leaders of Cabo San Lucas itself, and also a representative of the hotel resort where this took place. Let's move on to Daejanae. Now that she's been captured, extradited, and detained by Mexican police, the next steps for her are to obtain a lawyer, have an arraignment, and start trial. Now, as far as the Mexican courts are concerned, I don't know how long it takes to get arrested, obtain a lawyer, and go through the arraignment process and essentially setting a trial date. Now, in America, that process can take anywhere from a week to a year. In the case of Ted Norman, it took weeks for that to happen. But because this case has such a high public profile, I wouldn't be surprised if the court process was expedited at the behest of the American government. Now, when it comes to charges, you have first-degree murder, you have second-degree murder, you have manslaughter, which all really boils down to intent and planning. So manslaughter is more of, I didn't intend for something to happen, but my actions resulted in the death of someone else. You often see manslaughter charges with vehicular manslaughter, or in cases of a really bad bar fight, if someone is intoxicated or under the use of drugs and they get into a fight and they're unable to stop themselves and someone ends up dying. Those are cases where you see manslaughter charges. You can even see first-degree murder and second-degree murder, pled down to manslaughter because the prosecution believes that they can get a guilty verdict on manslaughter as opposed to getting a guilty verdict on first-degree murder or second-degree murder. There is public speculation and rumors circulating that Winter Donovan, Elise Hart, and Daejanae Jackson plotted to attack Shanquella before the trip even took place. Not only that, there are other videos of Shanquella filming herself doing a vlog type of video, and she enters a room with the three ladies are commiserating, and it is suggested that in that room, those women were talking about how they were going to attack Shanquella. If that is found to be true, then the other parties involved have put themselves at risk of being charged with first-degree murder. Another element to this case is their statements that they gave to the police. Now, we have 5 people who left Mexico with a story that Shanquella had suffered from alcohol poisoning and died in Mexico. This group of friends communicated this false story to Shanquella's family. Once the report from Mexico came back and stated that Shanquella suffered from a broken spine and a broken neck, all 5 of those individuals were questioned by U.S. police. Now, if those individuals gave false statements of the police, they themselves have now committed a crime. It is illegal to give a false statement to the police while they are investigating a crime. That is considered hindrance or interference with an active investigation, and the charges they possibly face are obstruction of justice, which in many cases is a felony crime. And because you have the international aspect to this case, it becomes a federal crime. When it comes to the autopsy reports, my prediction is that they're going to bring in an expert to examine Shanquella's body. That examination is going to determine if the injuries she sustained were directly connected to her fatal injuries that caused her death. Was the broken spine and the broken neck a result of the fighting and the attack that she endured, or, as it's been suggested by other reports and documents, or were her injuries the result of the life-saving measures that the Mexican hospital staff took, i.e. CPR, in order to save Shanquella's life? That's all going to be determined by the medical examiner. But if that medical examiner determines that her injuries were due to blows, blunt force trauma that is the result of an attack, a violent attack from multiple parties, then that means that Daejanae, Winter, and Elise are facing murder charges in addition to obstruction of justice, and the government can actually add on aggravated assault to that as well. Now, when it comes to the two men who were present, Malik and Khalil, because they weren't actively involved in the violence against Shanquella, I don't believe that they're going to be charged with aggravated assault, or her murder. However, because they did not accurately report what transpired and what happened, and because they left her there for dead and did not call enough of the authorities fast enough and no one stopped the fight, I do believe that they are facing accessory to murder. They could be. This is my opinion and prediction. I predict, or I believe, that it is possible that Malik and Khalil could possibly be facing accessory to aggravated assault, accessory to obstruction of justice, and accessory to murder. Because again, they didn't stop any of the girls from fighting Shanquella. They were there in the room. They were videotaping the fight. They witnessed it all and no one stopped anything. So if you don't stop an act of crime being committed in front of you, you're at risk of being charged with accessory to whatever crime was committed. Now I'm going to take a pause here and give you a personal story. I personally have family members who were arrested and are in jail because they drove a getaway car when someone robbed a store, and because they drove the car in furtherance of committance of a crime, then they were arrested and charged with accessory to that crime. This family member has been in jail for 30 years because he drove a car. So if you don't think that these people can be charged with accessory to murder because they videotaped it, they were in the room and they didn't stop it, you are confused. Again, this is just a prediction. These are things that might happen and could happen based on things that I have seen within the legal and justice system here in the United States. My next prediction is that Winter, Elise, Malik, and Khalil are going to be detained and extradited to Mexico, where they're going to be interviewed and questioned by the Mexican police. Either they're going to be extradited to Mexico or they're going to be detained here in the United States. The Mexican police will travel from Mexico to the states where these 4 individuals now are being detained. They're going to interview them and question them here on U.S. soil, then determine if they should face charges and stand trial for their involvement in the murder of Shanquella Robinson. That is my prediction in regards to the other 4 individuals involved in this case. Also, I want to throw out a word that was all over the Tim Norman trial, and that is the word conspiracy. I mentioned earlier that there was speculation and rumors going around that these women plotted to attack Shanquella. Now, if there are Instagram DMs or text messages or emails that suggest any of the sort, then that is a conspiracy charge. Anytime one or more persons agree to enact in a behavior and commit a crime, that is a conspiracy. If Daejanae was the ringleader and she told Winter and Elise, hey, I'm going to fight this girl. Are y'all with me? Okay, cool. Here's when we're going to do it. If Winter and Elise agreed to help Daejanae attack Shanquella, that is the definition of a conspiracy. That is also a charge that these women could be facing if there is evidence to support that charge. The prosecution for the Mexican government really has their work cut out for them. They have to go through Interpol and rely on the aid of the American government to do the research to find text messages, transcripts, phone calls, emails, Instagram DMs, Facebook DMs, in order to prove that these women commiserated or conspired to attack Shanquella while they were on this trip. There is a lot of international border crossing laws and government agencies involved. And this case is really going to set a precedent for cases to come involving international crime. The fact that these people went on a trip with someone who she believed they called friend, they attacked her, no one stopped the attack, no one reported it accurately, and they left her in a foreign country to return to their homes and told her family a lie. That is going to change how the world looks at foreign crime versus U.S. crime, what should be prosecuted on U.S. soil, and what should be tried and prosecuted on foreign soil. And lastly, everyone involved in this case faces jail time in a Mexican prison. I spent quite a few years working on cruise ships, and I went to Mexico more times than I can count. Whenever the ships docked in a Mexican port, whether it was Cabo San Lucas, Cancun, Ensenada, Cozumel, Progreso, there were always Mexican policia at the port with assault rifles, whether it was AR-15s, whether it was AK-47s. They always had large assault rifles on them, on their person at all times. The Mexican police do not play when it comes to crime. The jails in Mexico are full of people who are murderers, who are part of cartels, who are drug smugglers. And here you have a group of Americans who, in my opinion, don't know what that life is like. They are jet setters and influencers. Mexican jails do not have women who have 30-inch weaves. They don't have $300 eyelashes. They don't have acrylic nails or waist trainers. These are hardened criminals in these Mexican prisons. And these, forgive me for the word, spoiled Americans are about to see what struggle and what criminal life and what the consequences of your bad decisions looks like in real time, and they're going to get the worst version of it. I also want to say that this crime that took place is no reflection of the people of Mexico, and it is no reflection of all Americans and young Black Americans who travel internationally for vacation. We are not this group of people, and Mexico is not how it's being portrayed in the media. Everyone is individuals, and we need to look at them as such. Here you have 5 individuals who allegedly committed a heinous crime and left a friend for dead in a foreign country. They need to be seen as individuals, and they need to be tried as individuals. And Mexico is going to do their very best to prove a point that you can't come to Mexico and just commit heinous crimes like that and not get away with it. I predict that the prosecution is going to, if every single person goes to trial, I predict that the prosecution is going to make an example out of them, such as the Darrell Brooks case, and Judge Jennifer Brown, I believe her name, she sentenced him to over 1,000 years in prison. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that, if a sentence like that came down for all 5 of these individuals who have somehow aided in the murder and death of Shanquella Robinson. I'm going to continue to follow this story, and as I get updates from the Mexican police authorities, from the resort, from the Board of Tourism, from Interpol, from every single media outlet, Justice Department outlet that I have reached out to, whenever I hear a response and I have gathered all the information, I'm going to give you guys a huge deep dive on this case. But until then, just follow my page. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and I'm going to give you the updates as soon as I can. Please bear with me while I gather all this information, and also while I report on the other cases and arrests that take place in the meantime. For today's celebrity news, I have been your host, JSoExtra. This is all a speculative video. This is all my personal opinion. I have no knowledge of the ins and outs of these people's lives. I was not there, but I wanted to give you my opinion and my prediction based off things that I have seen in the past and the conclusions that I have drawn based on the information that is already out there in the media. I just want to make that very clear that I'm not accusing anyone. I'm not saying anyone is guilty. I'm saying that in my mind, I believe that this is only the beginning, and this is going to get even worse. As always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe.